The first all-seater FA Cup final, and the first football match in this country to attract total receipts of over £2 million. That's the size of the occasion, and that's what today's 80,000 capacity crowd have paid to watch the 109th final and the 62nd at Wembley. And they're enjoying their day already, aren't they? The stadium itself still being improved. New seating has of course been installed since last year. There are still seats being inserted even now as Wembley bids to be competitive in the next century, because news this week that the Football Association are looking into the possibility of a new stadium in the Midlands. But I'm assured by Graham Kelly that that's not a bid to replace Wembley, merely to offer an alternative. And it looks as though the Cup final will stay in what's been its spiritual home since 1923. The magnetism of the FA Cup encapsulated not just in the day itself, when these fans can enjoy themselves at the end of the road to Wembley, but in the deeds and the daring of all those who played a part along the way. Manchester United, a season of turmoil, of boardroom politics, but like the Phoenix, they always seem to rise again, don't they? Their 11th FA Cup final, bidding to equal Aston Villa and Tottenham with 7 wins overall. 27,000 Manchester United fans here. That's 1,000 more than originally expected, because clubs like Everton, Liverpool and Oldham actually donated tickets or passed them on to Manchester United, a club with an average attendance this season, the best in the country, of 39,000. But that only represents a fraction of the following worldwide for this famous club. There's their manager, Alex Ferguson, describing this as the biggest day of his life. And Steve Coppell, at 34, the youngest ever manager of an FA Cup final team. And what a moment it is for these Palace lads and their fans. The first time the club has been in the FA Cup final, and they're bound to get an appropriate reception. Crystal Palace, very much the underdogs, but as we've been saying since we came on the air, this is all on the day, and who knows what to expect. 1 or 2 United players a bit late out there, but now they're into the fresh air of Wembley, and just listen to this. Crystal Palace, who's played in all the divisions of the Football League. This is their finest hour, really, in the public eye. Only 14,000 of their supporters actually got tickets, but both of these clubs have quite a following in other countries as well. And a nice moment as Steve Coppell, a former Manchester United Cup finalist on 3 occasions, talks to his opposite number. They're great friends away from the tension of this occasion, the two managers. And as they stride across this quite perfect surface, the team's already entering into the mood of the day. It's buoyant, it's optimistic, it's good-natured, and we all hope it stays that way. And the newcomers, Crystal Palace, have selected the side that played Liverpool in the semi-final. Now, despite the morning speculation, I have a feeling that it was always doubtful that Ian Wright would start the game. He is a substitute, and Steve Coppell's main decision really this morning was who should be the second sub. As I said in the introductions, David Madden got the vote, and there were a few tears at the hotel this morning from 1 or 2 of those who didn't make it. The unlucky players, Eddie McGoldrick, Rudy Hedman, Jeff Hopkins. But that's the team that beat Liverpool 4-3, and certainly it's the formation which Palace know exactly can do a job for them, with possibly Andy Gray at number 4, the man to watch on the set plays, and Mark Bright, the main striker, at number 9. As for Manchester United, well, Alex Ferguson had one or two thoughts, but the semi-final replay team against Oldham won his nod of approval, with Danny Wallace selected ahead of Mark Robins, who was one of the substitutes. And Alex Ferguson also slept on the selection of his second sub. Clayton Blackmore just edged out Mal Donaghy. But Michael Phelan at number 5 will play right back. And Hughes will be very much alone up front in theory, but in practice Webb number 8 and the other midfield players will be expected to give him support. And I suppose, Trevor, if there is a player with a point to prove over and beyond the actual final, it's Neil Webb, who's trying to get his match sharpness back in time for the World Cup.
Well, I think he did exceptionally well in the semi-finals, but he was getting back to fitness, and the Achilles tendon is one of those injuries, you know, you get that initial confidence, and there just seems to be a levelling out then in the last few performances. And I think now what Bobby Robson is looking for is just that extra yard of sharpness, a little bit of a sort of quickening up, I think, because the acceleration is very important when you make that switch from club football to sort of international level.
Well, in the centre circle, the two captains present a nice little opposite here, because Brian Robson on the right is bidding to become the first captain to receive the FA Cup 3 times at Wembley, and Jeff Thomas on the left started life as a part-time player with Rochdale when he was working as an electrician. He supported Manchester City, and he used to catch the team coach in his overalls in those days. What a change for him here today as captain of an FA Cup final team. The referee is Alan Gunn from South Chailey in Sussex, and his claim to fame, apart from his achievements in the middle, is that he went to grammar school with Desmond Lynam in Brighton. His two linesmen, we have Colin Reeve from Norfolk and Larry Watson from Coventry. In fact, Larry Watson on the Royal Box side, Colin Reeve on our side. And I just wonder what part Andy Gray might play today, because if anybody made Liverpool come unstuck with his corners and his free kicks, it was Andy Gray. And in a very private training session yesterday afternoon, Palace worked on those with some industry. And so the first FA Cup final of the 1990s is about to get underway. Crystal Palace won the vote, or the toss I should say, for choice of colours, and they're wearing their familiar red and blue vertical stripes. A very nice strip it is too. Manchester United in all white, which their long-serving supporters will remind me they used in the finals of 1957, and although I don't think any of us go back that far, 1909 when they first won the Cup. So Palace start the game. As has already been said, this surface is in quite marvellous condition. Brian Robson himself said to me he can't recall the Wembley pitch looking and feeling better. If you can't play on this, was his pre-match comment, well, perhaps you shouldn't be here. Pemberton challenging Hughes. Wallace tries to get in. This is Gray for Palace. That's Lee Martin at left back. Only 22, but strangely enough, the longest serving player at Old Trafford. He's been connected with Manchester United since he was 12 years old. Big day for him. And I've noticed Richard Shaw, the Palace number 3, who does a fine marking job, as we've seen against Beardsley in the semi-final. He's gone towards Neil Webb, Trevor, early on.
Well, in fact, we said Mark Hughes would be a lone striker up for United, but Mark Bright is going to be a lone striker for Palace. And as you say, Richard Shaw is pushed into, because Neil Webb plays a floating role, really, breaking from midfield, and he's going to mark him, certainly. And John Salako going to play left back almost.
Barber tries to play the ball through. Yes, John Salako played left back in the semi-final against Liverpool, wearing number 10, and he's there again. His job, I think, will be to shadow Brian McClare on the United right, as we try to form a view on the various tactical implications. Here's Michael Phelan, number 5 for United. Thorne away. That's Ince in midfield, although he's wearing number 2. That's where you'll find him. Pallister for Manchester United. McClare is now pulled away to the left. And look where Salako's gone. He's gone with him. That's a man-to-man arrangement by Crystal Palace. They prepare so carefully. Steve Coppell there with Alan Smith and Ian Branfoot on the bench. Their tactical approach to these big games. It certainly paid off at Villa Park. I wonder if it will at Wembley. And already Wallace and McClare have swapped sides, and Salako and Pemberton have done the same. Now here is a position for Andy Gray early in the game. Gary O'Reilly has gone forward, and Palace have prepared so carefully for these. Bright has got his arm up in the middle. O'Reilly's there as well. That's all part of the ploy, this hesitation. They're appealing for offside. It's not been given. It's Bright. And that is exactly, Trevor, what Palace have been working on, getting Bright free on the right-hand side of the penalty area from a kind of delayed free kick like that.
Andy Gray did very well to hold it up, because the interesting thing was Manchester United defence. They had a look at how to combat it, and they decided to hold the 18-yard box. Nobody went into the 18-yard box, make sure that any header was going to be a long way from goal. Tried to play the offside, and that's why Andy Gray was holding it up before he eventually did give it. And in fact, they did sort of get through the offside trap.
Yes, the flag stayed down. This is Webb for United to Phelan. Hughes being shadowed by Gary O'Reilly. Tried to find Robson. Jeff Thomas was back there for Palace. Salako. Looking for Bright, who will have to battle a little bit on his own, as Hughes will. But they're arriving to support now. That was Pallister. Offside flag up. Referee says play on, because Palace had the advantage, and now it's a foul by Robson. Perfect playing conditions. It's a cool afternoon, and Andy Thorne will drive this free kick forward. Group of three just outside the penalty area waiting for Palace, including O'Reilly. But that wasn't the delivery they wanted. Phelan's header, McClare. Manchester United manager watches anxiously as Wallace gets the ball. That's Salako trying to clear with 5 minutes gone. It's a good header by Barber, actually, and here's Thomas. Bright's pulling away in the inside right channel, but he's a long way away. He'll want somebody a bit closer. Barber is the player. Phelan. Now, not only does he take corners and free kicks, Andy Gray, but he also possesses a very good long throw. O'Reilly there again. Thomas is in there. Shaw is too. Bright tries to make it. Here's Webb, and Shaw goes to meet him. At the moment, Manchester United have got Danny Wallace further forward with Hughes, and he's being shadowed by Pemberton. This is Bruce. Looks for Hughes. Brian Robson's made a good run from midfield. Webb. Hughes. Kept his feet, but no, he was fouled by O'Reilly. United's free kick. This is Phelan. Bruce is in the middle still, so is Robson. Ince. Salako's got time. Wallace. Webb. Salako. Ince. They want somebody wide, really, and no one's gone there yet. Hughes. Now Ince has himself. Hughes again. Can Ince catch it? Wallace is in the middle, so is Robson. Goal kick.
Well, it was a good idea. In fact, Paul Ince had got in there for the 1-2, and it was a bit of a heavy ball by Mark Hughes, but good build-up by Manchester United, and really that's what they've got to do, take turns. Ince, Robson and Webb, really the three central midfield players, all taking it in turns, rotating to join Mark Hughes like that.
Wembley now bathed in sunshine as Pallister battles with Bright. This is Thomas. It's Pardew. Hughes held them off really well. McClare. Pallister going through a good spell at the moment. The Manchester United Player of the Year. He was voted last week. Handball given and a free kick. This is Phelan. Webb. Corner. Wallace will come across to take it, and Manchester United here will leave Steve Bruce in the penalty area. He's handing a balloon to the referee at the moment. He's got Brian Robson there deep with him. Pallister facing the kicker with McClare. McClare. Crystal Palace didn't meet a First Division side in the FA Cup until they played Liverpool semi-final, and Manchester United didn't play at home, so it's been a fairly unorthodox route to Wembley for both clubs. This is Ince. Bruce. Hughes comes short. He looks lively, Mark Hughes, in this opening period. And he's found Robson. And that's McClare, and Robson goes again. It's cleared by Phil Barber. Lee Martin. Hughes. And Thorne had to be quick there. Andy Gray. Bright to his right. Gray goes again. Martin saw space in front of him there. Danny Wallace on the left wing. Takes on Pemberton, and this is Shaw. Good spreading play that by Crystal Palace, and Mark Bright's pulling wide at every opportunity to stretch the Manchester United defence. This is Salako, and there goes Pardew, and Jim Leighton made an early decision. And it was an emphatic clearance from Alan Pardew. Barber. Now a corner off Phelan. And the Palace fans roar with anticipation because they know just how dangerous corners can be. And you can't help thinking back to that semi-final, can you? Andy Thorne will take up his familiar near post position, and Gary O'Reilly's there too. Jim Leighton's got Barber in front of him. And O'Reilly's up there, and it was Brian McClair with the overhead kick, and Wallace with a little header, and McClair again. Good defending by Manchester United, and a good run on the far side by Neil Webb. It was just driven behind him, rather, by McClair, who acknowledges that that wasn't the best of passes. But it was McClair who actually got the danger away from his own penalty area in the first place. Driven forward again by Thorne. That's the ball that they want to play to Bright. Martin. Now Hughes. It span off Thorne to Hughes, and that's a good-looking ball for Danny Wallace. McClair's in the middle. Brian Robson's joining him now. Still Wallace against Pemberton. Corner. Pallister being marked by Bright. McClair in the 6-yard box. McClair. Here's Ince.
Paul Ince walking back. I know he couldn't quite get over that ball. The interesting thing with both teams playing just an isolated striker is that most of the space on the pitch, not surprisingly, midfield is pretty congested. Most of the space is in the back, and remember in the first semi-final, Alan Hansen in the first half, which Liverpool dominated, kept bringing the ball out and carrying it out the Crystal Palace midfield and defenders. And I think that's what Manchester United have got to do. Stevie Bruce, Gary Pallister in particular, run with the ball and get somebody committed and then release it then.
That was Bright. Pardew. And Bright finds Gray. Well, Lee Martin obstructed him. So, another chance for Gray to examine the Manchester United defence with his free kick. O'Reilly and Thorne both there again with Bright. Offside, Mark Bright. Well, obviously Manchester United have also been rehearsing what to do in those situations, Trevor.
Well, we saw a good camera shot just before that with everyone lined up on that 18-yard box, which happened with that first free kick, which is why Andy Gray hesitated and didn't play it too early. On that occasion, he hit it first time, and Man United had given it a shout, moved up, and there's the offside.
Quarter of an hour gone, 0-0 in the FA Cup final. Mark Hughes to Michael Phelan. Away by Andy Thorne to Phil Barber. This is Webb. Ince in a good position. Salako. His clearances so far haven't been quite where he intends them to go, but Gray was helping out there. Pardew. Well, there are periods in the match when Palace will be quite happy to concede space and let Manchester United come at them for a certain distance, because that was their strategy against Liverpool, and in a funny way it worked. Pemberton was stretching there, but it was a good header from a player who actually had a short time with Manchester United as a junior player, John Pemberton. McClair. Bright again, moving right out to the touchline, taking defenders with him. Gray. And still, well, he was flattened the second time. Danny Wallace. Now this could be dangerous once Gray gets to his feet, provided he's fit enough to take the free kick. Dave West, the Palace physio, will come on, who's never been to an FA Cup final before, so it's quite a day for him as well. Steve Coppell making a few notes. Of course, they sit so close to each other at Wembley, the two managers. See some great football names there, can't you, in the box? Billy Wright, Stan Cullis, Ron Greenwood. It's like a Hall of Fame back there. But back to the modern game. Free kick to Crystal Palace. Andy Gray's back on his feet to take it. Thorne O'Reilly's in there. And was it over the line? And it's a goal. Gary O'Reilly, after 19 minutes, it was in the net before Steve Bruce could get his foot to it. And Crystal Palace, the underdogs, have taken the lead in precisely the way many people expected. The free kick, I think it was bent in by Barber there. Whether that came off Pallister's head as well, I'm not quite sure. O'Reilly's taken the congratulations. It was bent in by Gray. And was that Pallister or O'Reilly? Anyway, Bruce couldn't keep it out, and Palace are in front.
Well, they took the lead just as probably everyone anticipated Palace would if they did score from a set piece. And on that occasion, of course, it was right near the touchline. Manchester United couldn't push out to the 18-yard box. They were hemmed in near the penalty spot. Jim Leighton, to be fair, did come for the cross, didn't get there, and it looped agonisingly into the empty net, and 1-0.
So, Crystal Palace, from the rehearsed free kick, make the set plays pay again. Well, United can't say they weren't warned. Phil Barber, I think, actually curled the ball in when Andy Gray was perhaps expected to take it. Well, in the semi-final, Palace came from behind. Today they've gone in front, but both semi-finals were such fluctuating matches. That's just the start. I'm sure there's a lot more to come. This is Ince. Hughes.
Just as I thought, the first 20 minutes were a little bit disappointing. Here we go, we get the goal. And I always feel in a big occasion like this, match needs a goal. Probably the Manchester United supporters don't agree with that at the moment, but I think you do need a goal just to open the game up, and I'm sure now we'll see it do that. And Manchester United, as I say, have to now start bringing the ball out of defence and start committing. The Palace defenders, who, having filled up that midfield, have now broken out, got the goal, and are now going to sit and wait and see what Manchester United can do.
Well, if I can just refer back again to the semi-final at Main Road, Oldham, of course, took an early lead, didn't they, against Manchester United, Earl Barrett, and what a game that developed into. Maybe we'll get a similar sort of response here from the Cup favourites. This is Salako, though, for Palace. And what an opening it's been for Steve Coppell's team. Here's McClair. Wallace. And still Wallace. Well, the ricochet favoured Salako there. This is Pallister. Now Bruce. Ince. Foul, Thorne on Wallace. Now Brian Robson and Neil Webb having a conversation. And this is Robson, and it's away by Thorne. Wallace back in, offside Hughes. Well, an early goal always sets off the FA Cup final, and there are plenty of excited faces in the crowd. Wallace, Thomas, Pardew, Gray, Bright, Thomas! Oh, a chance for number 2. It fell to his wrong foot. Jeff Thomas, predominantly a left-footed player, could only steer that into the arms of Jim Leighton. Hughes. This is Ince. Robson. Free kick. This will be indirect. So Manchester United, who've gone behind to a goal from a free kick, now have won themselves about 25 yards out. But can they be as inventive as Crystal Palace? I have a feeling that maybe in training, Palace work a little more at free kicks than Manchester United do. Perhaps they have to in some ways, because their football is more of a percentage game, I think it's fair to say. But Alex Ferguson always encourages players to have a shot from here, although this is indirect, so it'll have to be touched to Neil Webb if he is going to strike it. And that is Webb.
Just in the sort of position, well, about 10, 12 yards outside the penalty area. A little bit too far out to perhaps beat the goalkeeper from that range, but being in the middle of the goal, you know, you've got to try and chance a shot. But of course, the best positions are probably the ones where, unless they're just outside the penalty area, or else the one out wide where Crystal Palace score, because you can then whip the crosses in, and they do cause problems.
20 minutes left in the first half. Crystal Palace 1, Manchester United 0, offside against Andy Gray. Ince. Wallace. Now Lee Martin's made a good run forward here. This is Hughes. And it's still Hughes. And it's touched back in, and Thorne turned it back, and Brian Robson was within a foot or so of getting there before the goalkeeper. Thorne just not perhaps quite as certain as normal. There's Robson closed in. Well, the Minister of Sport must be fairly pleased with the response he got from the UEFA president before the kick-off today. Colin Moynihan can now enjoy the game after a busy week. Now Andy Gray with the long throw. He's looking for Bright. Robson heads out. Richard Shaw's in there. Are they offside? Yes. Trevor, these set pieces really do seem to upset teams, don't they? I mean, it was the undoing of Liverpool, and now Palace are putting Manchester United under a great deal of stress.
Well, Manchester United obviously decided offside trap is the way to try and combat it, but on occasions that is going to break down, and really you have got to compete with the people that you're marking. And at the moment, it is Crystal Palace men who are getting the flick-ons, and Manchester United are hoping they're going to get the offside, because really they're not getting to the first header.
This is Phelan though, and they're coming in from the far post. McClair! And well blocked Salako. It's a goal kick because McClair, I think, got an extra touch, although he wouldn't agree with that. John Salako did some valiant defending there for Crystal Palace. It was a delightful ball from Michael Phelan. It was aimed at McClair, but Salako was closing it down. Phelan very comfortable at right back, even though he was essentially brought to play in midfield. Well, Nigel Martyn will be pleased with the way the players in front of him have performed so far. Pallister and Bright. This is Thomas. Phelan. Now Pardew with Robson, and Pardew beat the England captain there cleanly. And they're enjoying this, Pardew and Thomas. They were obviously going to be up against it with Webb, Ince and Robson, three highly rated players in the Manchester United midfield. But that's the sort of challenge that Crystal Palace, the street fighters as Steve Coppell calls them, really relish. And they're leading by a goal to nil and showing no signs of being overawed by the occasion. Responding to it, in fact, very much the way that Coventry and Wimbledon did, and how often that happens in a cup final.
At Crystal Palace, there's significant difference. Oldham had Milligan and Henry. They had 2 against 3, whereas Stevie Coppell's decided to play Richard Shaw and Webb, and that has given them a 3 against 3, and they're just denying Man United space in that vital area at the moment.
This is Ince, and now it's Pallister, and McClair's in the middle, and so is Robson in a very good position coming in now. Danny Wallace. Another good cross. Hughes is putting his back into this, and Phil Barber getting back again to do a good defensive job. So we've been playing for half an hour. It's Manchester United a goal behind, and not much going right there for Gary Pallister. And if you by any chance came in late, this is the goal. It's the free kick curled in. Now O'Reilly and Pallister drops behind the line before Bruce can get there. And that's how things stand after half an hour's play in the 1990 Cup Final. The Eagles from South London are flying high at the moment. And it's a question of whether Manchester United can produce the devilment and the authority that their aristocratic team would expect to show on a day like this. It's a test now of their quality and their nerve. Palace beat them at Old Trafford in the league, remember, drew with them at Selhurst Park. So there was never any question of an inferiority complex by the outsiders here today. McClair. Oh, nice touch by Mark Hughes, driven forward by Neil Webb, but not where he wanted it to go. And, well, he was a graduate in economics at Liverpool University, Steve Coppell, so his academic upbringing has obviously helped him as a manager. Finds time to make notes. In fact, Gary O'Reilly, whose presence produced that goal, is also well qualified with 2 A-levels, but for the moment it's Lee Martin to Danny Wallace. Martin Good effort, and my word, a bit more height. And Lee Martin might have surprised everybody. But Nigel Martin was well placed, and he's perfectly capable of stretching for those. Decent effort, though. This is Gray. That's Bright. And Gray right in again. Bright nearly made that. The bombardment of crosses is still worrying Manchester United. Palace don't waste time in getting the ball in there. Here's Phelan. Foul, Barber. Wallace, good ball in, Hughes is there, McClair! And I think that hit a Palace player last, that's a corner. I think John Salako was the player that actually got that ball out. It was Danny Wallace's whip cross, and I'm pretty sure that comes off Salako. Webb will take the corner, Pallister on the near post, McClair on the goal line, Bruce and Robson waiting to come in. A back header, oh goodness me. I think that was probably Mark Bright who actually got his head to that. So look at it again. Yes, number 9 for Palace.
He'd probably say Nigel Martin called him for it, and so just knocked it back to him. But a great catch, in fact, by Nigel Martin, who hasn't had a lot to do, for 35 minutes, but held on to that very well.
Here's Wallace, up against Pemberton. That's awkward. Oh, good header, O'Reilly. Not very far out, though. Ince. Brian Robson's right on the 18-yard line as an auxiliary attacker. This is Phelan. Pallister. They want it played in. Hughes is waiting too. But Palace's defensive play at the moment is sound, it's compact, and if Gray hadn't been impeded, they would have been away there, but this is Martin. Referee saw nothing wrong. Ince. That's a good-looking ball from McClair. Wallace comes near post. Wallace. McClair. Robson! Goal! Brian Robson equalises for Manchester United after 35 minutes, and Captain Marvel is there again. Now, good play here. Danny Wallace just worked the ball out wide. The cross was delivered long to the far post, and Brian rolls a deflection off a defender as well there. It's one each, and as Robson gets the header in, that's John Pemberton, I think, was it? Or maybe the man in front of him that just diverted it to make it 1-1. Well, what an exciting cup final we've got here now. Great emotion in the crowd, but Robson gets into the penalty area when and where it counts. They're level again.
That was about the third similar cross in about the last 3 or 4 minutes. Danny Wallace had got a couple over, and then it was Brian McClair.
Gray's in there for Palace now. Good turn, and it's just a bit too long for Mark Bright. Well, a few people said to me on the way to the ground today, it's going to be a game of goals, and it looks as though it's going to turn out just like that. 1-1 at the moment, and there's promise of more to come. And crosses, which we're constantly told lead to more goals than any other type of play, are proving deadly again today for both teams. Get the ball wide, get it in the area quickly, and it pays dividends. McClair. Pulling of the shirt surely by Hughes on O'Reilly, and the other way round at the end, but it'll be a free kick to Palace. 8 minutes left in the first half. Crystal Palace 1, Manchester United 1. news from Hampden Park. It's 0-0 between Celtic and Aberdeen. Celtic going for their third consecutive Scottish Cup triumph. And Aberdeen, of course, Alex Ferguson's old club, with whom he won that hat-trick of Scottish Cups and then a fourth one as well. But he won't have much time to think about that at the moment. He regards this as a much greater occasion and a much sterner test for him and his team. But they're back in business, Manchester United. I must say as well, what a good cross by Brian McClair that produced that goal for Manchester United. Following smart work by Danny Wallace, McClair really delivered that ball well. This is Bruce. In by Wallace. Webb. McClair. Hughes. No, not quite. Can Phelan retrieve it? He can. McClair. And it could so easily have been 2-1 to United. And Alex Ferguson thought it was for a moment. He was on his feet as Brian McClair, who made the first goal, nearly scored the second. It's Webb working well there on the far side. It nearly went for Hughes. Now look what happens. Michael Phelan, a great cutback, and McClair's header the wrong side of the post.
A superb cross by Michael Phelan, and really Brian McClair will go in at half-time wondering how on earth he missed it. One of those, he turned to head it, I'm pretty sure he thought it was going to go into net, but he didn't get it round far enough, and really it was unchallenged, and he'll know a recognised striker such as himself, I think, should have tucked that away.
Well, Manchester United have come back really fired up in the last 10 minutes. Here's Pardew. And the response of their supporters is a testament to that. Here's Thomas for Palace. But if you go back to the final against Brighton, they were 1 down, weren't they, Manchester United, in the first half? And eventually we had a very exciting 2-2 draw. Have a drink, Steve. Hughes. Pardew. And on the right is Mark Bright, and he's offside. Well, no complaints about the entertainment value here, Trevor.
Well, indeed not, and both goals really probably had slight deflections involved, didn't they? The first, they had Gary O'Reilly, Gary Pallister challenged him and probably did touch as well, he said, but Gary O'Reilly claimed that. And then, of course, Brian Robson's had a good downward header, and, of course, skimming off the surface, and John Pemberton tried to block it, just went off his shin and really probably helped deflect it past Nigel Martin. But you know, both goals balancing each other out, one apiece, probably on the balance of play about right, but Manchester United, having got level, just perhaps enjoying a bit of domination at the moment.
This is Ince. Richard Shaw still sticking close to Neil Webb. Tension. That's what it's called. Thomas. Now he's got Bright and Gray waiting on the far side of the area. Barber. Bright comes in first. Oof. Headed by Pallister. Now Thomas. And now Gray battling with two defenders. Oh, my goodness me. That was a high challenge by Brian Robson on John Pemberton. But it will suit Crystal Palace to have a free kick here, won't it? I've talked a lot about Andy Gray bending them in, but he scored. That was a pretty rough and tumble challenge by the England captain. Gray actually scored, he's talking to Alan Gunn, with a terrific free kick against Manchester City last week at Selhurst. Wonder if he might be tempted to try a shot from here. Jim Leighton will be aware of that. He's got a long line of white shirts in front of him. That was Thomas who had the shot, and I suspect there was a player offside anyway. Well, we're 3 minutes away from half-time, Trevor. It seems to have gone very quickly. What's your summary? Well, I think Manchester United probably have had more possession, but Crystal Palace playing a
similar tactics to against Liverpool, absorbing pressure and then breaking out and relying on, they're so dangerous at set pieces. We've said, corner kicks, free kicks and those long throw-ins. They've got the goal from that. Probably be a bit disappointed then to have allowed Manchester United to get level before half-time, but United from their point of view will be quite relieved because at that stage it looked as if their sort of system of playing three central midfield players was being nullified by Palace's hard work and graft, but now they're getting extra men forward to support Mark Hughes, and that's opening him up a bit.
That's Pallister. Phelan's had a good half actually at right back. He's given valuable support on the right hand side. This is Ince, and he's taking on Jeff Thomas. Flags up. Free kick to United. Now Pallister has joined the attack, so has Bruce. McClare's in there too, so is Hughes and Robson. Oh, good header, Gary O'Reilly, my goodness. His A-levels were in geography and biology. He gave up a university career to play football. It's paying off for him. Corner to Manchester United. McClare with Martin, corner again. It's the last minute of the first half and Manchester United are finishing it on a high, having been a goal down. Pallister's in there, here's Ince with Thomas. But Ince again. Danger on the far side here, it's Bruce. Gets a corner, does he? No. Wembley Cup finals have always produced goals. Hasn't been a 0-0 here, and there won't be one today. Steve Bruce actually has taken a knock, and I think that may mean a slight delay. I think it may be a bang on the nose, because he normally throws himself into every challenge, and Jim McGregor in his baseball cap has come on to attend to a player who's had his share of facial injuries. In fact, we're already into stoppage time. And I know when Palace went off in the semi-final, they weren't too distressed to be one down, so presumably, Trevor, they'll be quite happy with 1-1, will they?
I think they've settled down, considering a lot of their players have, have never appeared at Wembley. A big occasion like this, they'd, as I say, be disappointed that having gone one ahead, they're all square. But the first half, they competed well, played to their strengths, and waited for Manchester United to try and break them down. I think United are just having that little bit more joy because they're getting people now in wider positions and getting in those crosses, from nearer the touchline. Whereas if you try and cross the ball from sort of only midway in the opposition's half, they're easy then for the back line or the goalkeeper to deal with. Once they get to the byline, they've started to cause Palace problems when they've turned them round.
Well, now it's a time when managers and coaches have to put their thinking caps on as to what they're going to say in the dressing room. We've been playing a minute of time added on by Alan Gunn for stoppages. This is Webb for Manchester United. And it's Phelan. And there is the half-time whistle, and the two teams in the 1990 FA Cup final go off level. I can see Steve Coppell sprinting down the touchline to get there first, which is his normal routine. But he saw his team, the outsiders, go into the lead here. And then as Manchester United began to get their game together, led by Brian Robson, they cancelled out that goal in which O'Reilly figured so prominently. And Robson was the man who came in at the far post with the header to put things right for the favourites. So at half-time at Wembley, it's Crystal Palace 1, Manchester United 1. Now then, Alex Ferguson with that good rapport still with the Manchester United supporters after all the trials and tribulations he's been through this season. But he'll have had some words to say, I'm sure, in that Manchester United dressing room at half-time, the effect of which we may now see. And if you recall what an explosive start Palace made to the semi-final second period, don't take your eyes off the play once they get going. Bright sunshine now. It's Webb for Manchester United, still not perhaps dominating the game in that midfield. This is Andy Gray. And Ince gets in the way, but Gray won't be denied. Now here's Pemberton. This is exactly what he did in the semi-final. And Brian Robson rather more aware than the Liverpool defenders were. John Pemberton must sort of take some special, something special in his cup of tea at half-time. I won't suggest anything stronger than that. But he does seem to come out full of running. And Robson was the man, as always, who was there on hand to divert the danger. There he is again, now in attack. Wallace. And Andy Gray is penalised. Pallister and Bruce have made their way forward for United. Offside, three of them in fact. I think the point was being made at half-time by Jimmy Hill, Trevor, that goals from set plays now seem to become more and more prevalent at all levels of football.
Well, it's surprising, I suppose, with games such as this where midfields get so congested and when sides are pushing up and you get a lot of players either side of the halfway line, quite often it is difficult to get openings in free play, and so they do spend more and more time on free kicks and corner kicks, just getting the touch on and getting the odd break, and over 90 minutes you do get one or two clear-cut openings.
Well, I don't think Steve Bruce had to do that, because I'm not sure that the ball was going to stay in anyway. But John Pemberton has gone down injured, and it's going to be a free kick to Palace. And every time Manchester United concede a free kick in this position, they're bringing difficulties back onto themselves. Bruce is being spoken to by Alan Gunn because Pemberton pushed the ball wide and then Bruce just pushed him over. Well, Dave West has got John Pemberton back in action, and now we're going to have the Gray-Barber combination again. O'Reilly, Thorne and Bright all waiting along the 18-yard line. O'Reilly makes the first run. All quite deliberate, this. And Bright was there, Thomas trying to close in. And now a break on possibly for Neil Webb. Can Hughes stay onside? Wouldn't have mattered. Solako was the player who got the tackle in. Here's Hughes now. Get a feeling it's pretty warm out there now. Here's Hughes, shadowed by Thorne. Webb. Offside Wallace. Do you see any change in the tactics in the second half, Trevor, on either side?
No, not at the moment, both sides. I mean, when it's all square, I think managers are reluctant to make any change, and both sides are still filling up that midfield, leaving their strikers isolated and then taking it in turns joining. I mean, Ian Wright for Palace and Mark Robins for Manchester United are the obvious substitutions to come on, but I don't think anything will happen until one side goes behind.
And a good header inside by Bright, meant for Barber. Steve Bruce in the way. Lovely panoramic setting now here at Wembley in the spring sunshine. This is Shaw. Oh. And it's Brian Robson who he flattened. Bruce. Wallace. Now Pallister has stayed forward in the centre. That's Pardew doing the covering. Good touch back to Webb by McClair. Not a bad ball either. Oh, they're in trouble here. Oh, and Bruce was coming in on that cross by Hughes, but couldn't quite reach it. Gray. I think it was Andy Thorne who may have intercepted. This is Gray now for Palace on the break to Bright. Now Barber in a good position. And it goes wide again to Bright. Jeff Thomas in there. This is Webb. It's developing now into a good open game. Martin. Wallace. Martin again. Pemberton. That was a foul. Just a reminder of the substitutes. We did refer to them at the start. Manchester United have Mark Robins and Clayton Blackmore on the bench. And Crystal Palace selected Ian Wright and David Madden. They may have a part to play later, we shall see. Meantime, a free kick to Manchester United. Palace is forward again between Hughes and McClair on the far side. This is Robson. Wallace. Martin. Webb. Wallace. And Palace are trying to get to grips there with Mark Bright, who'd come back to mark him. This is Barber. Cup final perfectly poised with the score 1-1. And I'm told that north of the border it's still 0-0 between Aberdeen and Celtic. This is Bruce. It's Mark Hughes who's gone down. Offside given. He's up again now, shaking it off. Pretty durable character, Mark Hughes, it has to be said. Here's Bruce. Robson. Webb's in a good position, a very good position, but it was just too long for him. Well, that was the intended England combination, Trevor, of Neil Webb and Brian Robson.
But it all started from Stevie Bruce bringing the ball out from the back, and when Crystal Palace all fill up the midfield and let the Manchester United back four have the ball, you have to have one of those back lads, such as Bruce, bring it out and carry it. And as soon as somebody came to him, it did then release Brian Robson free, and he was able to set up that attack. And I do feel if they could carry it more and more from the back, they will start to create those openings.
I know at half-time in the semi-final, Malcolm Allison made the point, even though that Palace were trailing at the time and Liverpool looked in command, of how well physically conditioned Crystal Palace are. And here's Thomas making one of those long runs and gets the ball inside. Barber, that's deflected, it's going to be a corner. They do have tremendous stamina, some of these Palace players. Steve Coppell's training schedule with Alan Smith there seems to have paid dividends in the latter part of the season. And there were two running on there, Thomas and Barber, forcing the corner. So, Brian Kidd there on the Manchester United bench as Gray prepares to take the corner, and the usual lineup in the middle for Crystal Palace: Thorne, O'Reilly, Barber. Headed out by Steve Bruce, only as far as Richard Shaw. And Phelan intercepts. Down the line for Wallace.
There's a good break just now by Crystal Palace, but yeah, Gary Pallister nearly sort of paid the cardinal sin. I don't know if Alex Ferguson shouting across to him, but so many defenders these days try to play the offside in stupid situations, and he moved up when really all defenders should do, first of all, their priority is to mark the man coming through. If it's a definite offside chance, then play it. But by moving up and not getting the offside, he almost gave Jeff Thomas a clean run through. But in fact, he just got held up by the bouncing ball, and it enabled Pallister and the other defenders to get back. But so many defenders rely too much, I think, on the offside.
Well, we're 10 minutes into the second half here at Wembley. It's still 1-1. Phelan forward for United, looking for Wallace. Sulako's header out. And again, Webb. Phelan to his right. A bit like the semi-final goal, this. He's away. But no, there was a foul. At first, the linesman didn't flag. I think Alan Gunn gave it. Michael Phelan was doing a spot of pushing on Phil Barber. But it reminded me of the way Phelan got down the right at Main Road and made the goal for Robbins, which finally beat Oldham.
It was an unintentional foul. He just clipped his heels, but I mean, it enabled Michael Phelan to get away from Phil Barber, so the referee had to blow up.
That was Bright. Ince. Robson. Bundled over by Thomas. The England captain getting quite irritated by this. Jeff Thomas, who's come up the hard way, not standing on ceremony there, and reputations don't mean much when you're in a match like this. Here's Bruce. Now this is the carrying from the back, which, as Trevor said, United have got space to do at times. Hughes. Play on. Now this is Richard Shaw. He's looking left and right. He's got Bright one way. Here he is. Sulako. Barber. Oh, that was a heavy one too, coming in late. Michael Phelan. Some of the tackles getting a little over-anxious at the moment. It's not exactly a classic football match full of silky skills. It is, in its way, a typical British game now. And Gary O'Reilly, hoping to capitalise yet again on a free kick, has gone forward. Offside, surely. Mark Bright was caught there, and as you said, Manchester United clearly feel that's the best way to deal with these free kicks.
Well, when those taken from the halfway line or sort of halfway in the half, you can play that offside trap. It's where, in fact, Palace scored the goal in wide situations where you can't push up to the 18-yard box, and that's the ones that have troubled United. But here's Bruce again, bringing it out of the defence and hopefully setting up some attacks, because that's what they've got to do.
Forward by Webb. Brian McClare has now come across to the left. Danny Wallace at the moment is in a central position, but wherever they go, the young lad there, Mark Robbins, is wondering if he'll get his chance today. Wherever McClare goes, Sulako seems to follow. In fact, that's Sulako now, in fact, in an attacking position for Crystal Palace. Oh, he's got some pace. Bright's in the middle. So is Thomas now. Still Sulako. Bright. Pemberton, awkward. Jeff Thomas in there. Good challenge, Paul Ince. Had to be. And he's not happy with one or two of the other defenders there, and I'm not surprised. Manchester United seem to go to sleep in that Palace attack on both flanks. And they've conceded another corner. Now, can Gray put this one on a sixpence again? Pallister's header out. That's Thomas trying to hook it back in. And there could be, there would have been a break on for Pallister, who's furious because Pardew fouled him. Now that would have been an opportunity for Manchester United to possibly have a man over, and Alan Pardew, the winning goal scorer at Villa Park, was given just a quiet word of admonition by the referee there.
I think that sort of tackle in an attacking third of the field might have been a booking offence. I think Alan Pardew was a bit fortunate to get away without the yellow card there.
An hour gone in the match, still 1-1. Danny Wallace for Manchester United, not for long, but here's Martin, and not for long either. Jim McGregor there, the physiotherapist, on his 9th visit to Wembley, was formerly with Everton. This day is so much part of the memory book for so many people behind the scenes as well. Staff at both clubs looking forward to it so much, as well as the players. Here's Andy Thorne. Martin. Robson. Oh, goodness me, they're manhandling Robson a bit. That was Gray. Referee says you've got the ball to Lee Martin. Play on. Good advantage by Alan Gunn. Here's Pallister. And United with 7 players forward in this attack. One of them is Ince here. And now Pallister. And Webb. Palace making them work so hard to get forward. Phelan. Wallace. Ince. Solako having another good game at left back, which was something of an unfamiliar position to him at the beginning of the season. And Paul Ince was the player who stopped there. Webb. Palace dwelling. Wallace. A ricochet. Hughes! 2-1 to Manchester United. And a devastating finish by Mark Hughes. And I have to say the Palace defence were pussyfooting around a bit there, really. They had their chance to clear. Thorne didn't do so. And when it came to Hughes' left foot, that was a deadly goal scorer's instinct. After 62 minutes, Mark Hughes scores his 14th goal of the season, his first in the FA Cup this season, and it puts Manchester United into a 2-1 lead. And take nothing away from Hughes, that was first class. But Crystal Palace's manager told them yesterday, whatever you do, make sure you concentrate for the whole 90 minutes. And just for a few seconds there, they lost it, and they paid the price. It had been a good spell by United, and it's been rewarded. Nigel Martin had no chance at all. Ince. Now, can they take over here now, the favourites? Or can Palace do what they did to Liverpool and come from behind again?
Not dissimilar to the first half, was it? A scrappy sort of 17-18 minutes, and then suddenly we get a goal. Probably Crystal Palace will feel they're a little bit unlucky because the clearance by Thorne was blocked to Neil Webb. It could have gone anywhere, but it opened up suddenly. Crystal Palace defence. Mark Hughes kept his head very well. He had a good left foot shot, and suddenly 2-1. And now, I suppose Steve Coppell's mind must be drifting slightly towards Ian Wright. Here we have the ricochet, and suddenly Gary O'Reilly coming out of defence, caught flat-footed, and there he is, Mark Hughes hits it in, and there's a happy man there, I think.
I think we've got a quick shot of a very delighted Bobby Charlton there. He would have been pleased to put that one away with such aplomb, I'm sure. They say that Mark Hughes doesn't score the simple goals, only the spectacular ones. Well, that was, if you like, a simple opportunity, but it was taken in some style. Webb. There goes Phelan, good running from right back. Hughes in the middle again. Wallace. Webb. 3 in the centre. Hughes! Oh, how did they get that out? Andy Thorne think. Miraculously from McClair. What a clearance. That could have killed the game completely. And they know it down there. McClair was ready to pounce. As you'll see from this, it's Neil Webb who gets a great ball in. Hughes heads it wide of the keeper, and Thorne away from McClair.
Marvellous cross by Neil Webb there to the far post. And it's actually the crosses beyond the far post, the goal, and then Mark Hughes had the one chested down early in the second half, and that one there that's causing Palace problems. It's beyond the far post.
Well, Andy Thorne, the former Wimbledon campaigner here, certainly saved his side on that occasion. He's probably kept them in the final. And the Manchester United fans turn up the volume. They've taken over here at the moment. Bruce. Well, Mark Hughes looks to be the man for the big occasion. I remember him making the goal for Norman Whiteside when United last won the Cup. But it's early to talk about that. Here's Bright. Pallister. And look where Jim Leighton was. When Pallister sliced that ball over his own crossbar, the goalkeeper had come and must have been 8 yards out. It's a ball played in here by Mark Bright. There's Leighton coming to claim it, but never got a chance, because Pallister did it first. Now then, corner. Always the danger signal, with Palace bending them in. On that occasion, bending them over.
There's a wasted corner on that occasion, but it must have been some relief there, because there was a mix-up. Gary Pallister trying to make the clearance, and you have to ask, did Jim Leighton shout? Because really he was waiting to collect the cross, and I'm sure if the defender gets to shout, he's got to leave it, but if you don't hear anything, you try and hook it clear. So once again, I think emphasising the problem that United have had during the season on crosses.
So 2-1 to Manchester United. Neil Webb heads the ball on to Mark Hughes. Foul, Gary O'Reilly. Now, the invitation is there for Manchester United, with all their quality players, their expensive stars, to enforce their grip on this cup final, to go on and win a trophy which they so badly need. They shouldn't slip up now, but you would never rule out Crystal Palace after what happened at Villa Park. However, United are going for the third goal that they know would almost certainly put the match beyond Palace. And I'm quite certain Sarah Brooking is correct that Ian Wright must now be gambled on by Steve Coppell. Thomas. Pardew. Barber's cross. Bright is coming in here. Can he head it back to Andy Gray? He can. Pardew! And Leighton was in the right place there. Bang on the 6-yard line. Mark Bright with the head back towards Andy Gray, but the ball fell in the end quite nicely for Alan Pardew. Deflection too. Hughes. Webb. Wallace, good ball. Hughes. Wallace trying to get in behind Thorne. Substitution about to be made. That's Roger Milford, the reserve referee. Gray. Oh, good challenge. Oh, that's a fine piece of football by Steve Bruce. Webb. And that's offside against Mark Hughes. Hughes is so full of life at the moment. And Crystal Palace are going to make a change. Phil Barber is going off, number 7. And Ian Wright, the whiz kid from Woolwich, who made a huge impression last season when Palace won promotion, but who's twice had a hairline fracture of a shin bone and has only played in 4 of the last 22 matches. He's missed the last 10, in fact. This is his moment now to prove that he's fit and able to make a contribution. There's been a delay as well because while Barber puts his tracksuit top on, Lee Martin is injured for Manchester United. Trevor.
Well, Crystal Palace now will abandon the marking job for Richard Shaw on Neil Webb, which might give Neil Webb a bit more space. He's going to left back. John Salico is going to push up wide on the left. Ian Wright will play up alongside Mike Pratt. So it's really a sort of flexible 4-4-2, 4-2-4. And yeah, I had to make that decision as quickly as possible to give Ian Wright as long as possible to try and get Palace all square and to get back running again. Having been, what, 2 fractures in one season. Great credit to him. He's fought his way back and given himself a chance here as a substitute to become an instant hero.
Well, what effect then will the arrival of Ian Wright have on this cup final? It's a free kick to be taken by Andy Thorne. O'Reilly's up there again. Gets half a touch on it. Bright, there is Wright in fact. And this is Ince for Manchester United. Webb. Yes, the tactics have been changed. As you said, Shaw is now in an orthodox left-back position. In fact, he's trying to get the ball from Hughes. And if it can come this way, there's lots of space, but not a good enough pass by Paul Ince. Pemberton. Robson got a foot in. McClare. Now, the experience and the know-how of some of these expensive Manchester United players ought to be influential at this stage. They're in a good position here. This is McClare. And... nearly got it through to Hughes. It was handball, actually, by Gary O'Reilly. McClare. Bruce has made his way forward now. Wallace. There's a man who knows that as every minute goes by, he and his assistant Archie Knox get a little bit nearer to their first trophy at Manchester United, and we all know just how much is at stake there. Wallace. Webb back to Wallace, and there goes Robson, onside. Hughes coming in from the far post, but it's Brian Robson, and a good challenge by Alan Pardew, forcing Robson to shoot wide at the last. I would think that Bobby Robson up in the stand, Trevor, would be very pleased to see Brian Robson so active and so involved.
Well, it's those sort of runs are the ones he's famous for, and that's that sort of run which got him his semi-final goal, wasn't it, against Oldham. On that occasion, Alan Pardew did very well, worked back. He couldn't quite get in a tackle because it was in a dangerous situation, could have conceded a penalty, but just shouldered him off balance enough so as he couldn't hit a good shot.
Now here's Wright, his first chance to show what he can do, and he's through. It's Wright. Oh, what an impact by the substitute. It's 2-2, and it's Ian Wright who has sent the Palace supporters into ecstasy. The ball played through to him in not the best position, I have to say, but look what he made of this. He turned the defender beautifully and slid it wide of Jim Leighton, and that was in the 73rd minute, and it was just 3 minutes after Ian Wright had come on. And what a lovely individual goal. There's a touch of the Ricky Villas about that one, Trevor.
Well, he looks pretty pleased there, I'm not surprised. I do believe it was his first touch, wasn't it? I can't actually, he's been running around as you do as a substitute, trying to get a touch. Here he is, and really Gary Pallister caught very flat-footed. You shouldn't let a striker turn in on goal like that. You should funnel him to the touchline. He kept his head well, kept it low, and really that's it. That is him at his best. Turns inside, he's so quick, always on his toes, sees that corner, and here, not surprisingly, he's just about, the shot froze there, but he just about went on one of his runarounds, which all goal scorers do at Wembley, and suddenly, what a cup this has been, isn't it? Always topsy-turvy matches, and there's Steve Coppell, the master stroke substitution, shall we say.
And a grim-faced Alex Ferguson, but that has to go down as one of the classic individual cup final goals. It came out of nothing from a player whose skill factor is well recognised, but who many people felt wasn't really fit enough to take part today. Well, he's proved them all wrong, but Steve Coppell has been proved right, because to leave him out of the starting lineup and then bring him on when something fresh was needed has proved at this stage to be something of a masterstroke. He's so bubbly and so confident, this boy. He said to one of our interviewers today, I think it was to David Davis at the hotel, he said that I was born for this day. Well, at the moment, it's looking good. We're 15 minutes away from the possibility of extra time. It's 2-2 in the cup final. And I wonder how important that goal line clearance is going to be proving from Andy Thorne. Because if it had been 3-1 then, surely the game would have been over. But he got the ball away from Leclerc, and Steve Coppell's team showed their powers of recovery that have already gone down in semi-final folklore. It was a dazzling piece of skill, and they'll look back on that one for many years to come. Here's Gray. Oh, Brian Robson, well, he can't complain sometimes when he gets bundled about, because he digs in a bit himself. And it's a sign of the anxiety which now may affect Manchester United, because with free kicks to come and Thorne and O'Reilly in there, anything can happen now. Offside, though. Well, which way is this cup final going to go now? It's such a fluctuating game. As indeed it was last year, if you think back, and Coventry Spurs comes to mind. We certainly haven't been short of excitement and incident in cup finals in recent years. And of course, last season the substitutes came on and each scored twice, Ian Rush and Stuart McCall. And now it's Salako for Palace. And Palace has got beaten again. Salako's cross, and Gary Pallister is having a bad time. He was turned completely by Wright for the goal, and he was licked by Salako there. Gray. Thorne. Oh, I mentioned extra time, but Manchester United were, of course, involved in one of the most thrilling cup finals, or cup final finishes of all, against Arsenal. So a lot can happen in the last few minutes. 12 minutes, in fact. This is Neil Webb. Kept the ball in. This is Michael Phelan, and it's Webb again. He's overhit that one. Tugging there, but referee says fair enough. This is Hughes.
Well, he scored the goal that got them a 2-1 lead. He probably ruefully walking back there, thinking to himself, pity they've equalised. I could have got the headlines there, but that cross, the classic step over, made the opening. And a little bit weary, really, because he had the space to get the left footer in. He didn't do so, and perhaps Palace just regained that initiative that they seemed to have slipped when United went ahead.
Well, Steve Coppell has used his trump card from the bench, Ian Wright. I just wonder if this might be the moment for Alex Ferguson to consider the introduction of young Mark Robins, Trevor.
Well, he's had such a fairy tale burst of substitutions, hasn't he, during each round, that I think it would be a good idea. It's just a case, of course, he would have to break up probably the trio in midfield of Manchester United. And so who do you take off, unless he took Danny Wallace off on wide? But I think you've got to be positive and think attack-minded. But Alex Ferguson must be thinking about Mark Robins, because psychologically it perhaps would lift the crowd and the team, because at the moment they're just a little bit on their heels.
Yes, Manchester United had the better of things in the first period of the second half. There was no doubt about that. They put themselves into a potentially winning position, but this spirit of Crystal Palace that is something synonymous in a way with that of Wimbledon. Bobby Gould was comparing it last night in our preview programme. It's been the backbone of another recovery by the outsiders. Here's Webb. I keep saying outsiders, it's no disrespect. This is Phelan, Ince, and it's Phelan! Well, he seemed to get caught between a cross and a shot there. It wasn't pulled back far enough for Hughes or McClair. Now it's going to be a Palace throw. I say Palace are the outsiders. In actual fact, these two teams finished level on points in the First Division this season. The only reason Manchester United finished higher was because of goal difference. And Palace, I think, have thrived on the fact that most people do see them as underdogs here. That was Gray to right. This time he takes on Bruce. Now the long throw. Andy Gray to take it. Gary O'Reilly well forward. We've got 9 minutes to go of normal time. And this is Danny Wallace, wide to McClair. Brian Robson charging through the centre here. Phelan going up on the right wing. Still McClair. Ince in the penalty area. Hughes coming in from this side. That's his header. Ball's out. In fact, extra time has been required in 6 of the last 9 FA Cup finals. So there would be no great surprise if it happened again today. The news from Hampden Park, there's still nothing to choose between Aberdeen and Celtic. It's 0-0 in the Scottish Cup final. It's 2-2 here. This is a player who's been in both. McClair, Webb, Wallace making a run across the box. He and Hughes hit each other and both finished up on the ground. It's a sign of the confusion that seems to have spread through United the last few minutes. In fact, Wallace has got hurt and Hughes is down. And this could be the signal maybe for Robins to get ready. I see no movement yet on the bench. There's the young man. McClair. Webb. Robson! Good save by Martin. Right. Well, who else but Brian Robson sneaking in there? So close. Here he is again in midfield. Alistair. Now, who's going to be stronger in the last few minutes here? Foul. Pemberton on Wallace. Pemberton furious. 7 minutes of normal time left and a free kick to Manchester United. John Pemberton just being warned for his reaction when he threw the ball away there. So hyped up on such a big day, especially for players who never expected to be here, like John Pemberton. Now, Pallister and Webb are the furthest players over. Bruce is in there too. Martin takes it. And here's Jeff Thomas with room to manoeuvre. Ian Wright is going through the inside left channel now. Can he get there ahead of Phelan? And it's Wright. Now, the free kick's been given. I'm not sure that Michael Phelan actually brought him down. It may be that Wright tripped over his own feet, I have to say that. But anyway, Alan Gunn thinks differently, and he's given Crystal Palace a free kick, which will lead to great controversy if a goal should come from it.
I think Manchester United are also claiming that as he controls it here, he handballs it. As you see, it bounces up, and it's going to be a bit nasty to control it, and there it is, touched on with the hand, so the free kick doesn't even apply.
Well, it will be controversial then, won't it, if they score from this? Well, Gray is placing the ball. Pardew is standing there as well, facing him. Jeff Thomas is joining in the debate, all of which may be a bit of camouflage, because they know what they're going to do. Gray. And it was harmless. Well, in a sense, I've a feeling justice was done there, because I don't think that should have been a free kick to Crystal Palace, but that's not to criticise the referee, who until now has had a perfectly good game. So with less than 5 minutes of normal time left, it's Pemberton back to Martin. Free kick to Manchester United. Brian Robson will be thinking how agonisingly close he came to winning this match, or to putting United 3-2 up. This is Webb. Well, Wright is full of zest. Gray. The early ball could pay off here. It's marked right through the centre. And Jim Leighton's solid clearance. It's all a bit shaky back there at the moment. There's Mark Robins. 4 minutes to go. Gray takes the throw. Bright's in there with O'Reilly. Pardew. Now the break's on for Manchester United. Bruce to McClair. And Hughes and Wallace are up with him. Phelan's making great strides to his right. Here he is. Oh, McClair's driven him rather too wide, I think. Anyway, he's got it back, and Ince is in the middle as well now. Here's Ince. Away by Shaw. Phelan. McClair. Against Salako. Left. Andy Gray going for the spectacular crossfield ball to Wright. In fact, both Manchester United substitutes getting prepared, and we have an injury anyway. It's cramp, and I just wonder with that Brian Robson header, Trevor, whether Nigel Martin had a bit of help from the post with that save. You know, looking back,
I've got a feeling it did come back off the post, because he came back very firmly, and certainly it was typical Brian Robson, getting in late again. Another downward header. Good tip for youngsters watching. You know, it's very difficult for goalkeepers to, when they're headed down, to get to them and get at the touch. But he might have got the faintest of touches, but I'm sure it came back off the post in the end.
So that was my impression at the time, that the post was what really kept it out. Dave West doing a steady job there, because there are players on both sides going down with cramp, and I just think that Lee Martin may have played his last part in the game. Now here's what I was trying to refer to. He did save it, but it did hit the post, so there we are. We've finally got it right. And Lee Martin is walking across towards the touchline, and Clayton Blackmore is the player coming on, so they're saving Robins, I presume, for extra time. Now Blackmore can play left back, so that's a straight switch. I hear that Gray through the middle for Bright, offside. I hear that at Hampden Park they're already in extra time. It's 0-0 between Aberdeen and Celtic after 90 minutes, so we'll keep you posted on that. But there's a minute left here of the 90. It's Ince for Manchester United. He's gone past Pardew. He's taking them all on. Robson's up there too. Not a good clearance. This is Webb. Good ball out to Wallace. Robson waiting in the middle. So is Hughes. Gray. Oh, good ball by Pallister to Webb. Now there's running off the ball, but Hughes has got 2 to beat and Pemberton was there. So with 30 seconds left, it looks like 7 finals in 10 will have gone to extra time. Unless Wright can do something dramatic, or maybe Ince can. He wants help. Wallace. Robson. Phelan. Manchester United's fans urging them to one last effort here. McClair. We're into stoppage time. Thomas, hounded by Robson. Good enough to get away. You can see who's the more anxious over there. Alex Ferguson and Archie Knox both off the bench trying to retrieve the ball. Webb, Phelan. McClair, Wallace in the middle, so is Hughes, but he couldn't get past Andy Thorne, but it is a corner. Now then, Neil Webb will take it. Gary Pallister has come forward, so has Steve Bruce, so has Brian Robson. And Jeff Thomas didn't have to do much apart from chest that down, and he's found Wright with a very good ball. And Gray wants to make a run, and so does Bright. Wright's keeping the ball for the moment, but he's got options either way. It's still Wright. They're screaming for it on the right wing. Bright now. Still Mark Bright. He's going right across the line. He wants help again now. Thomas. Gray. Good turn by Gray. Well, what a finish that would have been. Just look how disturbed he is. And Andy Gray, who always likes to go for something out of the ordinary. Well, Crystal Palace and Manchester United locked here at 2-2. McClair has the ball deep into stoppage time. Phelan's made his run down the right. Corner. Now, could Manchester United prevent it going into extra time? Again, the heavy armoury are up from the back. Again, the corner wasn't well delivered by Wallace. Shaw is there to clear for Palace. It's a throw-in this time. There is time to be added on here for injuries because the trainers were on the pitch for quite some time. Here's Webb for United. Flags up, referee says play on. McClair was in there and so was Pemberton. This is a determined assault by Manchester United in the 3rd minute of stoppage time to snatch the winning goal. Pallister's hobbling, but he's up there nevertheless. Pallister. Hughes, no! Trevor.
Well, it's been a bit heartbreaking, I think, for Crystal Palace and any side perhaps to lose it now in these last few seconds. Let's them go into extra time and see now who is going to conjure up perhaps the opening, or are we going to have another replay? It seems to be a saga this season, doesn't it? But certainly a very good second half, and there's the final whistle, and both managers now going to do a lot of talking just to lift their side in these extra 30 minutes.
Let me just refresh your memory as to what happened in the 90 minutes of this FA Cup final. Gary O'Reilly put Palace ahead after 19 minutes. Brian Robson equalised after 35. It was 1-1 at half-time. Mark Hughes gave Manchester United the lead, and Alex Ferguson must have thought then they had a great chance of winning it at 2-1. And Ian Wright made it 2-2. But this is the goal which could well have given Manchester United the chance they wanted to win the Cup. It came back off Webb, and Mark Hughes buried it beautifully. Now, that point was the 62nd minute, but 11 minutes later, along came that sizzling individual effort from Ian Wright, the Palace substitute, who Steve Coppell had only brought on 3 minutes earlier. And just watch this. The build-up is Bright to Wright. That's the familiar Palace combination down in south-east London. He leaves one defender sprawling. That was Phelan. He turns inside Palace to the second man, and that is absolutely first class. And it made it 2-2. The lad who's broken his leg twice came on and did exactly what Steve Coppell hoped he would, and that took the FA Cup final into extra time. And we now get ready for the second period. And who would want to predict this? Both clubs went through punishing periods of extra time in the semi-final. Manchester United against Oldham on 2 occasions, Crystal Palace against Liverpool, so their stamina and their endurance has been well tested. And I made that comment earlier on about Malcolm Allison saying in the semi-final what a good team Palace were in terms of their physical conditioning. Well, we'll see if Manchester United can match, or even better that, in extra time. It's United playing from left to right in the first period. Brian Robson. I don't think Bobby Robson would want to replay here, would he, with England players involved? Because England are due to play Denmark on Tuesday, and there would be a replay of the FA Cup final if required on Thursday here. So don't book that night out just yet. This is McClair. Ince. Good running on the far side by Clayton Blackmore, the substitute. Andy Gray went back with him. Just managed to get the ball away. Here's Wright. Fouled by Bruce. Bobby Charlton and the other Manchester United directors will be more than a little concerned here about the outcome, because, as I said earlier on, the club is going through something of a turbulent time at board level as well. Webb, O'Reilly, Salako, who's playing further forward now that Shaw is in an orthodox left-back position here. In fact, Salako's playing wide on the left in Barber's old position. Phelan is challenging him. Wright! Goal! It's Ian Wright again! Palace are in front at 3-2. And Steve Coppell has made... No, he's made one of the great substitutions. And the Palace players have been called back by the referee. It's a goal, all right, but they've been called back from celebrating. Don't let me take it away from Ian Wright. What a good finish, but it was interesting there. In the light of current crowd control, Alan Gunn ran behind the goal and pulled them all back from the crowd. It's 3-2 to Crystal Palace. Ian Wright has scored his second in the 92nd minute. And as last year, we have a substitute who's come on and scored 2 goals, just as Rush and McCall did. Palace are in front. Here's McClair for Manchester United. It's Phelan. Fields for handball. It's McClair again. And that's out. Well, Trevor, they've done it again. At least they've taken the lead again, and they've got to bring on Robbins now.
Well, one substitution has meant that the other one's going to be brought on as well, because a really good cross from John Salako there, and Ian Wright getting in behind Stevie Bruce. He wondered whether Jim Leighton could get to the cross, but it was a really good deep cross, and really Steve Bruce just went to sleep for a couple of yards. And Ian Wright there, you did say he thought he was born for today, and 2 goals, I think you're going to be right.
Well, managers have to think so long and hard about what to do with top-class players who are not quite 100% fit, but whose presence on the day could make a difference. And when Steve Coppell decided to leave Wright out of the 11, but keep him up his sleeve, it would seem that he made a quite inspired choice. Meantime, we're going to get the second Manchester United substitution, and Gary Pallister, who I feel has been struggling a little bit with an injury. I don't know whether the crowd would appreciate that. He was hobbling earlier. He's the man going off. And 20 years old Mark Robbins, they say he's got the goal-scoring touch, just like Ian Wright, and he's proved it this season in the FA Cup. Can he do for Manchester United what Wright, the number 12, has done for Crystal Palace.
And the introduction of Robbins has meant that, in fact, Michael Phelan's gone alongside Stevie Bruce. Paul Ince is going to play right back, which he didn't look too pleased at when he was told. And Robbins obviously gone up front with Hughes.
Yes, that's precisely the reorganisation. This is Hughes, in fact, for Manchester United. They're 3-2 down. And Crystal Palace, who started this FA Cup campaign as 66-1 outsiders, well, if Manchester United felt they had one hand on the trophy at 2-1, then Palace might just start to believe that at 3-2, but it would again be unwise to be too sure, because after all, it was 3-3 in the semi-final at Main Road. It could be 3-3 again. Who would dare to say? But there is cramp now affecting quite a few players on this sapping Wembley turf. It's Richard Shaw who's down now. What an explosive start, Trevor, to the first period of extra time. I mean, people were hardly settled down again when Wright closed in. It was a good cross, wasn't it, by Salako, as you said?
Well, it was a good ball over the top, and Salako's pace just took him and enabled him to get onto it in front of Michael Phelan, who I thought has really had an excellent match up until that moment. The Salako's pace gave him that extra yard. He turned then outside and put his right cross in. There he is, hands on his hips, and there you can see him turn to get it on his right foot. A good deep cross, which goes beyond everyone. Stevie Bruce just caught then, and Ian Wright slid in, volleyed high into the net, and I think he'll look forward to watching that on his video a few times.
Well, he certainly will if the score stays like this, Trevor, yes, because of course he's now got 2 goals and he's pulled Palace round from 2-1 down to 3-2 up. And here's Mark Bright. And I suppose we have to say that Ian Wright's on a hat-trick, and the last man to achieve that in an FA Cup final was Stan Mortensen back in 1953. Here's Salako. And there goes Wright, looking for the third one, overhit this time. Well, we've been blessed with some very good FA Cup finals recently, and this one is following in the same trend. You almost have to remind yourself that Palace were in front at 1-0, Manchester United were ahead at 2-1, and now it's Palace who've got the edge at 3-2. So the lead has changed hands twice. What's still to come? That's Andy Gray trying to get past Clayton Blackmore. Robbins, Shaw, Webb. They've got a man over on the far post here, you know. This is Ince. Ince's shot, and Nigel Martin gathered that really well.
Turned inside. Good goalkeeping there, the whole body right behind it. No chance of that one popping off his chest.
Jeff Thomas for Palace. Wright wants it in the middle. Gray's there as well. This is Wright. Oh, there were 2 free beyond him. Gray and Bright were in there. Well, with tiredness creeping in and Manchester United desperate to push forward, anything could happen. There may well be another goal. This is Bruce. Robson. Wallace is out wide. Robbins is in the middle with Hughes. Blackmore. Little chip ball in for McClare. Richard Shaw doing a good job, but it's Blackmore again. Driven ball this time, and Nigel Martin is seeing these very early. He's coming and dominating that 18-yard area, this time at the feet of Mark Hughes. But that £1 million, you know, is looking to be a good investment. In fact, Alex Ferguson was the man who encouraged Steve Coppell to pay that kind of money for the Bristol Rovers goalkeeper. Maybe he wishes now he hadn't given him that advice. Here's Robson. Offside against Mark Bright. Steve was just wondering whether Palace could go to £1 million, and he did. And Nigel Martin has acquitted himself extremely well in both semi-final and final. Hughes against O'Reilly. Touch into Webb. That's a good ball. Brian McClair. Brian Robson was coming into the 6-yard box unchallenged, and McClair just didn't pull the cross back far enough to find the England captain, who knows just what a good position he was in.
Yeah, there's a roar of expectancy from the United crowd, but Brian McClair, who set up Robson's first goal, will know that that was a wasted opportunity. Good through ball by Neil Webb, though.
Webb. Ince playing it right back now, as Trevor said. Robbins has made a darting run through the middle. There are plenty of other players up with him here for United. This is Danny Wallace. Good tackle by Andy Thorne. Oh, an even better one by Mark Bright. Oh, Palace are surging forward with Andy Gray. He takes on Bruce. Well, he had to take on Blackmore as well. And now Wright's made a run across the box again. And if anything, Palace do look the livelier side in extra time. They're challenging for every ball and winning most of the 50-50s at the moment. Pardew. Gray. And this is Bruce. Well played by Blackmore there. Now, who's going to feel the effects of the pace most? Here's Phelan for Manchester United. McClair. Good cross. It's going to fall for Robson, I think. Well, the bounce was awkward. Gave O'Reilly the chance to clear. 4 minutes left in the first period of extra time, and Jeff Thomas didn't have to climb all over Ince there, but he's given away a free kick. Ince. Hughes. Couldn't quite squeeze it through to Wallace. And Palace have got the 2 men up front. Bright and Wright. Ince for United. Robbins in a good position down the inside left channel if he could be seen. Pemberton's checked there to mark him. This is Robson. Now Wallace tries to get free. Robson takes over again. Blackmore. Palace trying to close the gaps. Robson. Wallace. Robson's made a darting run forward. This is Webb. Oh, and Robbins wasn't far away from that. Gary O'Reilly conceded the corner. Webb will take it. Bruce comes forward. There's no Pallister now to come up, of course. That was Steve Bruce. Robson! And the referee's blown, possibly for foot up. And a lovely helping hand there from John Pemberton for the England captain.
Deep breathing for Steve Cobble. Imagine what the players are feeling like there, but you know, he must feel elated at the moment. Just in those situations, managers keep looking at your watch, waiting for the seconds to tick away, and keep checking, make sure it is working, because it does seem to ebb away very slowly in these situations.
Well, he won't want to be on the losing side, will he, the captain of England? But with 2 minutes left in this first period, United still trail 3-2, and here's McClair with a chance to get the ball in, perhaps. There's three waiting. Hughes! Oh, a typical Mark Hughes effort. They'd have loved to see that one go in, the United fans, and it's a speciality of Mark Hughes, this, the bicycle kick. Really a great skill, but on this occasion wide of the goal. This is Gray. Oh, he should have perhaps played that one earlier to Bright. Steve Coppell. Well, they voted Kenny Dalglish Manager of the Year. They gave Joe Royle a special award, I'm sure both well deserved, but I wonder what you'd say about the job Steve Coppell's done this year. But there's a bit of time to go before he can start thinking about winning the FA Cup. We're a minute away from half-time in extra time. And the ball is played wide towards John Salako. It was Ince. Header by Gary O'Reilly. You really couldn't have written the script, Trevor, could you, for either the semi-final or the final? Either semi-final, really.
Well, it's just swung one way to the other, isn't it? As we say, both semis, and then today. And really, the game in both halves started off quite slowly, and suddenly a goal just sparked both halves into life. And then again, on this occasion, extra time, the goal suddenly 3-2. And Manchester United at the moment, I must say, looking the more tired of the two teams.
Well, the ball is in the Palace half at the moment, but not for long. We're coming up to the halfway point in the extra period. This is Ince for Manchester United. And the whistle goes. There's still 15 minutes more. Now, at this point, the managers are not supposed to come on, but I can see Steve Coppell striding a few yards in to bark out some more instructions. And Alex Ferguson has not moved a muscle at the moment. The message from Steve Coppell yesterday at the private training session they had in the afternoon was, listen, if you do everything we've told you to do, you'll win the game. And that's why he doesn't want Crystal Palace deviating now from his instructions. They are 3-2 ahead, and their supporters are preparing for one of the great celebrations in South London. In fact, it's a South London boy who's put them in this position. Ian Wright, born in Woolwich. And I think it was Greenwich Borough he was playing for when he was first spotted by Crystal Palace, but certainly from humble origins. And his two goals have put them in a winning position. Can they hold on to it? And can Manchester United turn it round as yet? Here's Bruce. Robson. Bruce again. McClair wants it played to the right. Header out was by Salako. Wallace. Robbins is in there, so is Hughes. Well, when Andy Gray breaks, Bright and Wright are looking for positions all the time. Here's Bright. Now it's Wallace. Webb. Wallace. And Robson's got a great run on here. Pemberton got to him just in time. This is Hughes. The danger's not over yet. Ince. Good effort! Oh, fine save by Nigel Martyn. Well, when he was called upon there, he was right in line. It's a good shot, this, by Ince, and a good tip over. Now then, the corner by Danny Wallace. Short to Webb. Wallace again. Hughes was in there with Bruce. O'Reilly's header out. Ince. And here's Wright. He's away again, and it's 3 against 2. He's got Gray in the middle and Bright on the far side, completely unmarked. Offside. Flag was up, it wouldn't have mattered, even though Andy Gray knows it was a bad piece of control. It would have been a free kick, and instead it's Manchester United breaking with Webb. Robbins. Hughes far side. Wallace. Oh, good challenge, Pemberton.
Again, that ball beyond the far post, just the one that's given United that glimmer of the openings they've had this half.
Wallace. Off Thorne, corner. Well, it's inevitable that most of the play now will be compressed into the Palace half. Manchester United have to try to save the final by throwing players forward, and that's just what they're doing for this corner. Steve Bruce is up there again with his arm held high. Robson's there too. Robson comes in on Nigel Martyn, foul. Well, when Ince hit that shot, it came between a couple of Palace players. It had pace, but Martin, that's a terrific flying save, isn't it? And he's had a good day. His family from Cornwall up there in the stand will really be enjoying this. And you think just a couple of years ago he was playing local football before Jerry Francis spotted him and got him to Bristol Rovers. This is Gray. Pemberton. Oh, he's got past Blackmore. Bright's in a good position here, but it's just a bit too strong. And McClare, nicely done to Phelan. Robin starts his run now. This is Webb. Robson's free if he can find him square. Wallace will. Hughes. McClare. Phelan out on the right. Salako tries to get to him and fails. It's Michael Phelan for United. Dipping shot. Beautifully tried. Oh, he's good at those. I remember one playing for England when he nearly scored. That was a super effort, and it wasn't far away, and Steve Coppell knows that better than anybody. They gave Phelan a bit too much room, actually. Salako dived in a bit there, didn't get hold of things at all, and look where the keeper is, 6-yard line. That's a dipper, and it just clips the roof of the net. Thomas. Now it's Ince. Bruce. Blackmore. A real crowd in there. Everything seems to be falling to Ince on the edge of the area. Oh, he overdid it there. Alan Pardew gets the free kick with 10 minutes to go, and Palace leading by 3-2. Incidentally, just to answer that quiz question, I think you have to go back to 1923, the first Wembley final, for a Lancashire team beat a London team. Bolton beat West Ham 2-0. But it looks at the moment as though London might beat Lancashire again today for the 9th time running in an FA Cup final. But we mustn't speak too soon. This season's FA Cup has thrown up so many surprises, so many twists and turns. And rough and tumble as well. This time Gray and maybe socks rolled down, feeling the effects a little bit now. Well, we saw Coventry win here 3 years ago, Wimbledon 2 years ago. Is it Palace's turn? Can Manchester United save it with 9 minutes to go? McClare! Deflection off a Palace head. This is Hughes. Well, the crowd have really enjoyed Ian Wright's contribution since he's been on, the Palace supporters that is, because they know how capable he is of turning a match, and he's probably turned this one. Mark Bright's offside. But Wright, who was so buoyant in the pre-match interviews, even though he knew he was going to be a substitute, has delivered the goods up to now. Here's Webb. Wallace. Now, can Robbins do the same for Manchester United? You wouldn't bet against it. Hughes is in there. Webb. McClare! O'Reilly had to get to that, and Nigel Martin has to get to that too, and he does. An uncertain clearance by Gary O'Reilly, I think he would agree. But Nigel Martin is in such commanding form just at present, it didn't seem to give him any concern at all. Wembley bathed in sunshine now. Palace leading 3-2. Robson. Webb to Wallace. Hughes goes through the middle, chance here for 3-3. Mark Hughes! He scores his second of the game, and Manchester United have saved themselves. The ball just chucked through by Danny Wallace, and the central defenders gave him too much space. O'Reilly wasn't close enough, and Hughes steered it past Martin. And so what Ian Wright has done for Palace, Mark Hughes has done for Manchester United. He's scored twice, and with just 7 minutes of extra time to go, the score is 3-3.
Well, it's quite amazing, isn't it? We should have known better than to suggest that the game was going to stay 3-2 after the cup season that we've had. And in the end, it was so simple, wasn't it? Danny Wallace running with the ball, played a through ball, perfectly weighted. Mark Hughes timed his run well, tucked it away, and in the end, as I say, disappointingly soft goal, really, I think, from Palace's point of view, defensively.
And now it's Hughes who's really on his game. He has been for most of the match, in fairness. Here's Ince. And now it's Manchester United who sniff victory. This is Wallace. Tries to set McClare up. That was Thomas. Oh, look at this. 2 against 2 again. It's Wright against Phelan. And Wright's still there. He's got Bright on this side. He won't find him like that. He was too far away. And it's Bruce. Well, we've said it before that anything can happen, but it's so wide open now. There are players tired. There are gaps appearing. There's opportunity at both ends, and it's Webb for Manchester United, with Robbins making the forward run, with O'Reilly marking him, and Robson's in support, and Robbins finds a way back to Webb, and then Robbins again, and Blackmore's in there. Well, are we going to come back on Thursday night for a replay? That's the next question. But you almost don't want to say anything now for fear of speaking too soon. It's Bright. And it's Blackmore. Goodness gracious. Webb. Defenders are all over the place. Robbins. They'll settle for the corner. Yes, there are plenty of players feeling the effects now of a draining 2 hours out there. Webb to take the corner. He's pulled it back to Wallace. Blackmore is square. Clayton Blackmore. Goodness me, that hit the roof of the net as well. Well, I think this almost edges out Liverpool, Everton and Coventry Spurs, Trevor. It's if anything, more exciting still.
Well, it is a long-range speciality. In that one, Nigel Martin was beaten because it dipped very late. He needed to be another 3 or 4 yards further out, and Clayton Blackmore would have fooled us all and come up with 4-3. I think at this stage, I'd like to settle for the replay, because I think it'd be really heartbreaking for one of these teams who have entertained us so royally to actually concede a goal and then be devastated.
Well, if anything, the territorial advantage is now definitely with Manchester United. Palace are going to get it only on the break if they do now. And I think we're going to see a second Palace substitution, are we? Because what's happened is that Andy Gray has gone down behind the goal, and I think Dave West, the physio, is trying to signal to Steve Coppell as to whether to bring on David Madden. It's a question of communication from over there at the moment, and they don't seem to quite know. Well, the referee is standing waiting to see what Steve Coppell wants to do. The linesman's calling Steve back. And Palace presently have only got 10 players on the pitch. Now then, David Madden, a Londoner, midfield player essentially, comes on with 3 minutes to go. Ince. Well, there's David Madden. He's 27 and perhaps remembered best at Selhurst Park for scoring the vital penalty in the playoffs last season that beat Blackburn Rovers and saw Palace into the First Division. But he's been around the clubs a bit, started at Southampton. Bruce. Hughes. Robbins is to his right. Hughes has led the line really well, I have to say. He's had a terrific match. Full of energy and determination and finishing power. Oh, now then, The ball was nowhere near when that foul was committed. It was John Pemberton on Danny Wallace, and a little bit of anger creeping in there. But it was a rather strange thing for Pemberton to do, because he didn't seem to need to give away a free kick in that position. The referee's having a word with him. And there's a few words being exchanged between the two players as well. Now, Neil Webb and Paul Ince have placed the ball. And they're just waiting for the referee to move away. Webb. Robson! Goodness me. I think his expression says it all there.
His expression does say it, because really that was a typical Brian Robson position. Hands on his hips there on the edge of the area. Off he goes. It was perfectly weighted. He just couldn't push off with those heavy calves to get over the ball to head it down, and in fact just cleared the crossbar. But that was a good opportunity. Earlier in the game, with the legs a bit lighter, I think that would have been in the net.
Well, I think there's about a minute to go. We're so wrapped up here in all the excitement that we haven't told you yet. You look like having to keep Thursday night clear, but maybe not. Here's Webb. Ince for United. And that was deflected, and the sting really taken out of the shot. The replay is scheduled for Thursday at 7:30 here at Wembley. Thomas against McClare. Corner, well, Palace have settled for that. We've had the 30 minutes of extra time. We're into time being added on for stoppages, and the substitute, David Madden, will take the corner. Thorne and O'Reilly to take up their normal near-post positions, and Pardew just about on the penalty spot. Thorne's flick, and Mark Bright it was, with Jim Leighton scrambling it behind. Or did he? United are arguing, the referee's given a corner and they don't think it was. They're saying it went straight past from Mark Bright. You can probably see from this, well, it hit the post, didn't it? Corner again, Madden. Thorne won't reach it this time. And the referee has blown, and the FA Cup final of 1990 ends in a draw. Mark Hughes with 2 goals for Manchester United as Alex Ferguson's team saved themselves in extra time. And Ian Wright with 2 goals for Crystal Palace, who were 1-0 up, 2-1 down, 3-2 up, and whose fans in the end applaud not just their own players, like Gary O'Reilly, but everybody on the pitch, I would think, for a stirring, gripping encounter. The first replay then since Manchester United and Brighton had to try again in 1983. And Alex Ferguson, well, what emotions he must have been through. And so too his opposite number, Steve Coppell. I wonder what he's thinking, because Palace were 3-2 up with 7 minutes of extra time to go when Hughes levelled it and forced the replay. 6 goals in the FA Cup final. And Brian Robson, who now presumably with Neil Webb may have to adjust his England plans, and Nigel Martyn certainly will look back on that match with some pride. But the final score at Wembley in this 109th FA Cup final is Crystal Palace 3, Manchester United 3. So the teams break, and we can now take a check on the numbers and the lineups. Crystal Palace are absolutely unchanged. Steve Coppell electing to keep Ian Wright in reserve on the bench, even though he played him in a practice match yesterday.
So Phil Barber keeps his place wide, having come off on Saturday, and we'll see the tactical formation unfold when the game gets underway. But it's the same two substitutes, Wright and Madden. As for Manchester United, well, Alec Ferguson made up his mind before today, but kept it a tight secret, especially from the morning papers. The 10 outfield players are the same. Gary Pallister is fit after intense treatment on his ankle, but the big news is that Jim Leighton is dropped. And Les Sealey, on loan from Luton, after only 2 senior matches this season, both for Manchester United, at 32 years of age, gets a surprise call-up, although he has played at Wembley before for Luton in the Littlewoods Cup and the CMOD Cup finals. Well, one of the spectators tonight at the age of 80, nearly 81 in fact, Sir Matt himself, who was born in the year that Manchester United first won the FA Cup, 1909, and has had some great years associated with the Old Trafford club. Will he see them win the Cup tonight, I wonder, for the 7th time, which would equal the record?